So on screen now, you should see some of the things that we'll be covering in this session today. The half-hour sessions that we do, half hour, 40 minutes sometimes, tend to be quite packed with information and the pace is quite quick. So don't worry if you miss anything, because you can watch it again from the recording that I'm doing right now, and it'll be uploaded to our YouTube channel over the next couple of days, so it should be available by Thursday for you. And also, because you registered for the session, it means that you'll automatically be sent a link to the recording after the session anyway, okay? So you won't have to look around trying to find it. So you can see some of the things here that Sarah and I are going to be talking about today. So let's get started. So the first one is looking at customizing the interface of the software. Now, ActivInspire is one piece of software that has different interface options. So whereas in the past you would need to have installed a different version of the software if you were a primary teacher or a secondary user, ActivInspire lets you choose and switch between pre-created interfaces. So as you can see here, I'm currently using the primary interface, which might not be familiar to everybody. It'd be great to notice in the chat there whether you use the primary interface or if you use the studio interface. But regardless, it's just one piece of software, and all I have to do to change that is I'm just going to go up to View, open up my dashboard, click Configure, and then I want to tick this button here that says Launch Next Time using the Studio Look and Feel. So I'm just going to click that and close. And then I need to close my software and open it back up again. And this time you'll see that my software interface has changed. We'll just give it a minute to start up. Okay, and I can open up my flip chart again. So I'm actually going to present tonight's session using this Studio Look. But if you are a primary interface user, don't worry, I've done screenshots where applicable, and also everything that I am showing you tonight is available in both of the interfaces, okay, just in similar locations. So there's just a few basic differences between the two interfaces. So let's get back to the page that we're on. Here we go. Okay, so you can customize the behavior and location of toolboxes, browsers, and menu bars within the software. They can be pinned, dragged, and dropped. Some can float, or some can be rolled out or in and docked. So just looking around the window that we have here, right away I've got my toolbar here. Right now I have my toolbar pinned. I could unpin it, and you'll see that it just docks off to the side there out of the way. So I could take away even more distractions if I have some students that would find that distracting. I can tuck that back out of the way, and also so it's not interfering with me. I tend to like to have mine pinned, I have to say. Next to it, I have a little upwards arrow that when I hover, it tells me I can roll it up. So if I just want to move through the pages and I'm not worried about having different tools, I have that available to me too. I can click it again and it'll roll it back out again for me. Next to that as well, I have a little menu button. So I could decide to dock on the right, or this is only in Studio, so the primary skin, you're not able to dock on the top or on the bottom. Or I could have it floating. So I could just unpin that and have that to be able to pick up and move around wherever I want it to go, okay? I can also do the same over here with my browser. So if I close my browser by accident, by clicking the little X, I can get it back by going up to View and Browsers. What I can do is I can pin that into place, or I can unpin that and it just docks off to the side. Now I'm quite a good user of ActivInspire, so I like to have my browser available. But when I am presenting a lesson to my class or working through a lesson with my class, I would have it unpinned so it just ticks off to the side. And if I'm creating a flip chart, I tend to pin that in place so I have quick access to all my browser windows over here. Again, I've got that little menu button, so you can see I can dock left, right, or floating as well, okay? And I'm just going to unpin that again. Right now I am in Windows View, and what that means is that I have my Windows toolbar available to me down at the bottom. So if I wanted to open up something else, I could just click on it, and I would then be able to toggle between my flipchart, my ActivInspire software, and my desktop. But I can also go into full screen or our whiteboard mode. And so in this case, you can see it gets rid of all of that distractions, and all I have presenting to my class is my flipchart. And just click on that one to come back out of it again. There's various other things that I can do as well within the settings, and we'll cover settings a little bit further on. But I can get rid of my menu up here if I don't like it and just have it on my toolbar instead. I can also change it so that you don't see my little multiple flip charts that I have open. Okay, so I can flip between them right now. So there's lots of different ways that I can customize that and change that to suit myself. Okay. So if you want to find more about this kind of customizing the basic interface, then what I suggest is that you download the ActivInspire user guide from PrometheanKB.com. So that's our Promethean knowledge base. So I'll have the web address up at the end. But if you haven't had a look at the user guide, I do suggest you do, because I consider myself an expert on the software, and I was really surprised that looking at the user guide in preparation for this session, there were a few things that I was able to pick up that I didn't realize you could do within the software. So we'll revisit that at the end, and I'll talk about the different places where you can find out some of the information that I've pulled together for this particular session. So in particular, looking at this, there's a really useful table on page 185, which outlines the toolbox options, and it gives a really good description of what they do. So as I said, I'll make sure that I share where you can find that user guide at the end of the session. Now, the other way that you can customize your software is by going into the software settings. So going into the software settings allows me to control the default position, visibility, and behavior of toolboxes, toolbars, browsers, and other areas of the ActivInspire software very quickly. So to get to that, I want to go up to either File and Settings down here, or I could go up to Edit, the Edit menu, and select on Profiles. So there's two different ways I can go in there. Okay, I tend to go File and Settings. And then I just want to click on the Layout tab right here. So in the Layout, you can see, and we are going to be talking about profiles. So right now I'm in the Authoring profile, and I'm looking at the layout for this particular profile. So you can see how my icon size is, so I can adjust that. You can see that expands or decreases the size of my toolbar. I can specify where I want my main toolbox to be docked. I can also change the number of colors. So maybe I'm doing a lesson where I want to have a lot of colors available, so I could change that to 24, or I might find that 8 is enough for me, so I can change that in here as well. Dual toolbox as well is for our dual user. I'm not going to talk about that today, but you can see you can customize some things with the toolbox there. I could also decide I don't want to have it pinned, or I could have it rolled up or rolled down. And the other thing I can do is third column here. I can roll that in or roll that out. And I'm going to talk about the third column a little bit later on today as well. The browsers, I've got the option as well of where I want them docked, pinned, if I want it visible or if I want it closed. And the same with our menu bar and our document tabs. So document tabs up here and our menu bar at the top as well. I also have the ability to show the little flip chart bin, or if you never use that, you can just turn that off so you don't have to have it. And I can also set it so that it will always open immediately in full screen, and I can always set it so it always has my page extender at the bottom as well. Okay, so there's quite a lot of things that I can customize in there. And once again, there's a really good description of this that's available in the layout options on page 143 of the ActivInspire user guide. Okay, so taking it a little bit further, we're going to be, and I can see I've got my flip chart out of order to my pages here, so bear with me, Sarah, because I'm going to jump a page and go to customizing my settings before we talk about profiles. So you can customize ActivInspire in many different ways to suit your needs. To ensure that selected tools and features always behave in a predefined way, you can set up and save your preferences in more than one profile. Now there's a great table on page 148 of the user guide that briefly describes each of the areas of the software that you can change. So to get into my settings, just like I did for that layout, I go up to File and Settings, and this time I want to make sure that that Settings tab is clicked there. Okay, so we've got that Setting tab open. So if you just click through here, you can see various things. I can change the settings on my clock tool. I can specify certain things to happen in or not happen in design mode. We've got dual active boards, so if you have one of our multi-touch 500 boards, active panel touch or active board touches, we've got some controls that you can change there. I can determine the effects of tools such as Spotlight tool and Reveal tool. Okay, so it's just taking your time to have a look through that. I can change the world color here as well, so if I don't want to have the blue, I could change that to another color just by clicking that. Change your default size. So lots of things that I can do here. Okay, one of the things I really like, so it's just worth taking your time and having a look through here. But when I make a change in here and click Done, it will automatically save that to the profile that I have open. So as I said, right now I'm using authoring. So anything I change in here will save in that authoring profile. And the great thing about it is that I don't have to press a save button or save a file somewhere. It automatically picks that up in the software. So the next time I launch my software, all my changes that I made should still be there. So I'm just going to go down to Tools for a second, because this is one that I really quite like to mention. So you can see here that my default tool is my pen. I could change that, and I actually like my default tool to be my Select, so that when I come in to use a flip chart with my class, I don't automatically write all over it by mistake. I have my Select available to get me started, and then I can choose my pen tool as and when I want it. You can change the pen width indicator. You can also, you can elect not to show the pen width indicator. I can change the highlighter translucency, image fill tolerance, so quite a lot that I can do here. One thing that I wanted to point out is your math tools, and I really like this, especially when I'm working with younger learners, because I can actually change the settings of my tools to more closely resemble the tools that they're using at their desks. So I could change the rulers to be the same color as the rulers that we have for our class, make it easier for them to get the representation between what I'm showing them on the board and what they're using at their desk. But as I said, the great thing is that anything that I change in my settings here will automatically save to that profile. Okay? So I'm just going to pause for a minute, and I've seen lots of things going on in the chat, so I'm just going to stop for a second and ask Sam if there's any questions come in.
There are quite a few questions, Janice. I hope I've answered most of them for people using the chat. Would it be possible for you just to, you mentioned a couple of things that people are getting confused by.
Sure.
So can you just show the difference between page extender and page browser?
Okay. So your browser is over here, and I'm just going to pin that. And what my page browser does is it shows me all of the pages that I have in this particular file, this particular flip chart. Okay, so you can see that. In primary, your pages would appear down the bottom. Page extender, if I go into view, I have page extender here. What page extender does is it puts this little tool on my page that allows me to extend the surface of my flip chart page. So you can see there that I'm extending the flip chart page. I'm just going to close my browser. And you can see down the side here, I now have a scroll bar. So this is particularly useful if you, I get this quite often when I go for maths and science teachers who are writing a problem, working through a problem with their class, and once they get to the bottom here, they don't want to have to turn the page and take a new page. They want to continue being able to write that problem. And you can do that using this page extender because it just extends the page as much as I want, so infinitely, basically. You can see I can scroll back up onto it as well. Okay?
Yeah, the next question I think you're actually going to cover later, but you just tell me if you are, and I will pause it now. I've forgotten who it was now, so apologies. Lisa asked if we can show her how to create graph paper and add it to the page as her own template. I think you're going to cover that.
We're going to look at, we're going to look at customizing the resource library and templates in just a little bit.
That's okay, so I will leave that one. And we just had a question about the class flow tab as well. So if any of you are seeing the class flow tab on your personal software, that means you're running ActivInspire 2.0. If you don't see the class flow tab, you're running an earlier version of ActivInspire, and that's absolutely fine. If you're running 1.8, for example, that's great. You just won't see that tab at the top. I am going to talk about ClassFlow right at the end of the session, as ClassFlow is a new piece of software that we've just, well, it's been around now, but is available to you, and it's especially useful for people that have tablets or one-to-one devices in the classroom. So just wait till the end and I'll tell you more information about that. I think that's everything, Jan.
Okay, thanks, Sam. All right. Okay, so we're going to flip back now to profiles, and I'm going to get Sarah to jump in and help a little bit with this one as well. So ActivInspire, as you're finding out already, can be adapted to suit different teachers in different ways. So being able to customize it and personalize it to work the best for you. So whether you need lots of tools on your board or just plenty of space, as you can see with our extender there, ActivInspire can suit all of the teaching styles. When you start ActivInspire, it displays items such as tools according to a profile file. And so I showed you that right now we're in the authoring profile. ActivInspire creates a profile based on the use of your tools. So I had an interesting question on Twitter the other day where somebody was asking me how they couldn't figure out for the life of them how they changed the default font in the software. Well, there isn't a default font in the software because it all works with the last text that I've had open. So if I open my text box here and I could choose the font that I want, so let's go Arial Black, and I could choose the size. Okay, if I then come out of text, put that in the bin to get that out of the way, the next time I open a text box and click it, it remembers that. So it remembers that font and it remembers the size. Okay, so the profile is constantly saving any changes that you make within the software as you're using it. So just as with the text, that if I were to dock or roll in the browser, ActivInspire would make a note of that in the profile. And the next time I launch ActivInspire, things like menus, tools, and other items will look and behave just like you left them. Switching profiles is useful when you need to quickly change between previously saved application layouts and settings. For example, you have a profile that contains all of your preferences and settings for preparing flip charts, but maybe another one that you use for actually presenting them. Okay, so you can create different profiles to use for different teaching situations. There are a number of preset profiles which install with the software, and you can find them on your toolbar here. If I click on Switch Profile, and clicking on any of these will switch the toolbar to a different profile. So I'm just going to show you that quickly. If I click on Mathematics, and it just does take a couple of seconds there, you can see it has now switched that, and my toolbar looks completely different than the one that I was using in authoring. I'm just going to switch that back. But you can also create your own unique profiles, and that's where I'm going to get Sarah to jump in just now and take us through that.
Hi everyone. So using profiles in ActivInspire is a really, really good way of ensuring you've got the correct tools for the correct job, if you like. So I like to create a profile for each different type of lesson that I do. So if you click on the little icon that I think looks a little bit like an identity badge, and which always helps me remember it, that will take you to the different styles of profile that you have. So if we were to click on one of those, so for instance at the board or languages, whichever, you'll see now the commands have a list on the left-hand side of all the icons and all of the tools that are going to be available to me in my toolbar. Now, it might be that I'm running a session where I just want the children to use the board. I've prepared all the content and I want them to use it. So I might decide to take away things that they won't use. So things like the shapes or the settings, I wouldn't want them to use. So if I go into commands, I can literally click on something I want to take away, click remove, and that will instantly come up my toolbar. You can see it on the right hand side. So I could go through all of the different options and tools that I've got, taking off the ones that I don't want to use for a particular session, and then adding ones that I really do want to use. What I also find really useful is the option to move things up or down. So especially if you're working with younger children, you might want to move the pen and the eraser down to the bottom of the toolbar, purely so it's easier for them to reach. Once I've put all of my tools in the correct order, I've got exactly what I want. If I click on the icon that looks like a save disc with a pencil on it, that will allow me to save that profile as whatever I want it to. So I might call that Learners at the Board or Basic Tools, just so I know exactly what kind of tools are going to come up when I use that profile. Another great thing about using your profiles is that you can switch between them really, really easily. So if I go back to the button that looks like an identity badge, if I just click and say I was going back to creating flip charts, if I went to authoring, I've got all of my tools back without having to take them off, put them back on when I've got children in the classroom.
That's brilliant, Sarah. Thank you. And is this something that you find quite useful? That do you find that you have made different profiles depending on the users or the classes that you're teaching?
Absolutely. So for things like maths, you want to have things like your dice, your compass, your ruler, but they can be quite distracting if you're teaching literacy or if you've got children using the board. So it's so easy to be able to flip between the profiles. So I know I've got exactly the right tools for the lesson that I'm delivering. It doesn't take any other preparation because I can literally use that icon and flick between just depending on what I'm teaching.
Great, that's brilliant, Sarah, thank you. Now, one of the other things that we can do with profiles is we can share profiles. So if you work very closely with other teachers within your school, instead of everybody having to create these profiles individually, we can share a profile. So for example, Andy, who unfortunately wasn't able to join us tonight, sent me an email yesterday of a profile that he created. So you can see beginner profile here. So what I can do is if I save that profile, and I'm just going to save it into my profiles. So to do that, I want to go to my documents, and I'm going to find my ActivInspire software. Go into ActivInspire, My Resources, and then I've got one here that says My Profiles. So you can see all those profiles, including the one that Sarah created right there. Okay, I can then save that in there. So now when I come back into my software and go up into that profiles, you can see I have that beginner profile available there as well. So I can click on it, and that will automatically change the look of my software to that beginner profile. Okay, you can see it's also changed the browser to how it was last saved in that beginner profile as well. I'm just going to go back to authoring again. Okay, we'll take that back. So profiles are really, really useful and a great way of, as we say, personalizing it, making it work the best for you. You don't have to use the default ones that come with the software. We've already actually looked at customizing the toolbar because we saw that through Sarah. So I've got my pages a little bit out of order here, but that's okay. So just to remind you, if you want to customize the toolbar, you just go up to File and Settings, and then you want to go into your command setting here. So clicking on this, I can select all commands, and you can see the different commands that I have, or the different categories I have available to me. So these are different tools based on the type of tool we're looking at. So presentation tools, for example. And what I could then do is select the one I want. So I'd like to add the revealer to this toolbar. So I just click Add, and you'll see that the revealer has now appeared at the bottom of my toolbar. I don't want it at the bottom of my toolbar. I'd actually like to move that up. So I can just click on that, move that up. So now it's right next to my text there above my bottom separator. If I want to take a tool off, again, I just select it from here and remove it. And you'll see that's now taken that off my toolbar. I can also change the marquee handles of the software as well. So marquee handles are what you get when you select an object on your page, and they're the object edit handles that come up around it. So you can see I can actually edit those ones as well. So sometimes I don't want to have a whole list of things available to my students when they come up, to my learners when they come up. So I can change that and take that away. Remembering that I can save it in one profile, the handles one way, but be able to switch to another profile very quickly and have all of the default options for the marquee handles available as well.
Okay, Janice, sorry to interrupt you, but just while you are in settings,
yeah,
and you're in there, is it possible for you to just show us how to, if anyone would like to, change the language variant of the software? And also, if they, once we've changed it, just to clarify, because I'm not 100%, because I don't use it that often, if that means that once they've changed it to French, for example, that they'll be able to type French words with the accent.
Yeah. So what this does is changing the application language will just, as it says, change all the language in the application. So change all of the menus here into the chosen language, so Greek or German or Danish, okay? I can also change handwriting recognition. So I think that one is, can't remember where it's under, user input, handwriting recognition language. So I could change the handwriting recognition. So that would, and that will change depending on what I have for my application language chosen. But with regards to typing it with accents, I'm not 100% sure. That's something I'd need to look back. So maybe whoever asked that, we could note down their name and see if we can come back and find that answer. But I don't think it would, because I think that has more to do with the keyboard that you have with your particular computer. But as I say, I'm not 100% on that.
Thank you. Thanks.
Right. So what I wanted to just cover quickly next is the third column. So some of you might know or might not know that there's a third column on the ActivInspire toolbar. You can see I've got my third column here. Now this can be visible, or as I showed you before, I could roll that in so that we don't see it, or roll it out again, okay? Or it could be hidden by clicking on the menu button at the top of the toolbar. This is what they call the Quick Access toolbar. It displays the tools that you use most frequently within the software. So you can see down here the ones I use most frequently. And it creates a quick access button for them. So I can just really quickly click on that, and that would open up my camera tool to my snapshot, because I use that a lot. Or that will toggle between my presentation or my design view, just in that way. It's also where you can create user-defined buttons, as well as adding objects that you want for instant access. Okay, so user-defined buttons are this little button here. So when I click on that, that opens up my profiles again, and you can see here I've got this user-defined button. And what it allows me to do is create links to documents, different files, some applications even that I have on my computer, where instead of having to come out of ActivInspire to get to it, I can just really quickly click on the button on my toolbar, and that will bring that up onto my page. So to create a user-defined button, I just want to click Add, and then I can identify the type. So I want to do a programmer file, and I'm going to find that. So I'm just going to choose anything today. So we're just going to do this one here, about Promethean cover, and click open. So you can now see that it's in there. Okay, I could give it a tooltip if I wanted to. So I'm just going to call it hints and tips. And I could decide where I want that to be on my toolbar as well. So I could move it up, or I could move it up, or I could move it down. Okay, or I can also just click done. So now you can see that that Word document has appeared here on my toolbar. And if I click on that, that is then going to launch Word, and it's going to open up that file for me. So it's just saving me time of having to come out of my software to go and try and find that document. I just have this nice quick way with my user-defined buttons here of opening it. And as you can see, some programs you can also link to. So I know a colleague of mine is a math teacher, and she really likes to use Autograph. So she has a little button here that will launch Autograph so that she's not able to come out, not having to come right out of it. The other thing that I can also do is frequently used objects that I want. So I was working with some teachers, and they wanted to just have a half circle, okay, instead of having to draw it every time. So I can save objects on my third bar to be able to use. There's a picture of my wee boy that I've used the camera tool to cut out. So to do that, all I need to do is I pick up the object I want, and I just drag it and drop it on my toolbar. And now, when I click it, it'll put it in the exact location on my page that I took it from. Okay, so you can see I can pull that off. To get rid of those, I just need to go back into that user-defined button, and then I select the object I want to remove, and you can see it will disappear from my toolbar once I click done. So let's remove all of those ones. And now they're all gone from my toolbar apart from that Word document. Okay, so very useful. And again, another way of just personalizing it to do what you want, to have access to what you want to have access to very quickly. Right, the last thing we're going to finish up with is just a little bit about how you can customize your resource library. And for this one, I'm going to pass you right over to Sarah.
Thanks, Janice. You'll find in ActivInspire that you have a huge amount of resources available to you that sometimes can be a little bit overwhelming. So it's a great idea to start customizing your own resource library using folders. So if I've got something that I use very often, so for instance it might be an image or a particular background or paper, I can right click and create a folder when I go into my resources.
Okay, so I'm going to go into my resources. So right now I was in shared, so I'm going to go over to my resources. So I'm just going to click on the my resources there and then use the little menu to create a new folder.
And then I could literally name that as to what I wanted to, whether it was going to be like Janice is putting screenshots or particular images. Photos of the class are quite useful as well if you know you want to be dragging and dropping things like that in very easily. And then I can customize those folders, have exactly what I want in there.
Okay, so you can see the folder that I created here, screenshot, and I could even create subfolders within that as well. And I can also export. So if you're creating folders but you work very closely with other teachers, you can share resource packs in this way instead of everybody having to create their own as well. So if I've now got that screenshots open, what I can do with an object I have on my page is just pick it up and drop it in there. And you can see that it's now there in that screenshots folder. To take it out, I would just drag it out like I would any other object that I have in my resource library.
It's also great to download extra resource packages from Promethean Planet, and that again is really, really easy to do. If I just click on the little web icon, that will take me directly to any resource packs that are available for me on Promethean Planet. So you can see, obviously there, the first one that's come up are place value resources, but I can use the left-hand menu to decide what I'm looking for. And then all I need to do is click download.
Okay, so these are, we want a resource pack. It's giving me more than resource packs. We're going to go to Intro to the Alphabet, download that one.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm in Chrome, so it's going to start the download just down here at the bottom. And depending on how big that resource pack is, some of them will take longer than others to download. Okay. Once it's downloaded, I can just click on it to open, and then it's going to tell me where to put it. Now, where do you tend to put resource packs that you download from Promethean Planet, Sarah?
What I usually do is put them into shared resources, so I can have a look through them, see which ones I use the most, and then when I find the tools that are the right ones for me or the ones that I tend to use frequently, then I'll move them into my resources. I see my resources and the folders in there as something that I use all the time, that I know, and that I can access very quickly.
Well, I like that. See, that's a different way that I would use it, because when I download them, I tend to put them into my resources. So because of the way I use the software with going around and helping teachers understand how to use it better, more confidently, I tend to keep the shared resources as they are when I download the software, and anything extra I would import into the My Resource Library. So just different ways of doing the same thing. And it does take time for that to index as well. So I will just give it a second to do that and answer any questions. Sam?
Thank you. Sorry, just while you are in, and that's indexing, and you are in Promethean Planet, would it be possible just to very quickly go to the Download Inspire page just to show people where the main subject resource pack is housed? Because some people seem to have lost their disk or changed computers or whatever and just need to find that one.
Sure, so we want to go to Support, and then you can click on the Download ActivInspire button here, which is just taking a minute. So I'm just going to choose UK English. And when I come in here, okay, my browser's working a bit slowly today with sharing screen. You can see that you've got the resource packs here. So resource pack for Windows, Mac, or Linux. So this is the resource packs that would appear under your shared resources.
Thank you. The other question was, when you go back into Inspire and you're doing it just now, is it possible for you to just go through where people find their resource browser in both the Studio and the primary skin? I can see you're going to do that.
Yeah, so in your Studio skin, your resource browser is in your browser window, which will appear down the side. And it's always the second icon from the left. Okay, and when I hover over top of it, I can see it says Resource Browser. In the primary skin, your resources open up at the bottom. To open up your browser, you just want to click on the little upwards arrow here, and then that opens up this browser here. So you've got your shared and your My, and you've got your search on Promethean Planet. To open up this in primary, you will need to click on the little the tool for the resource library is on your main toolbar as well. Okay?
Yep, that's everything. Thank you.
Sure. So just to show you there, that resource pack that we downloaded under Elementary, Alphabet, Intro to the Alphabet, and you can see what's available here. So that's put that into my resource library for me. Okay? I can also save page templates. So we had a question. How could I create grid paper? So if I open up my page here, and I'm just going to right click to get up my menu, my page menu, and I've got something called Grid Designer. So I can make the grid visible, and I can change the properties of it here. I'm just going to make the squares bigger in this case. What I can also do is I can change the color of those squares. So I like to have them a little bit lighter so they just come through and it doesn't detract from all the other information we're putting onto the page. I'm then going to close that. Now what I want to do is I want to make sure that I have the folder that I want this stored in open. So I'm going to put it under My Templates. So I've clicked on that in my resource browser to have it open. And then again, right click on the page to get my menu up. And then I add it to the library. And I'm going to add it to the library. Let's see, I'm going to add it to the page add my page to my resource library, and that's put it right there. So if I take a new page now, I can drag that on, and that's available to me very quickly. So I can create my own templates to be able to use. Okay. Sarah, was there anything else that you wanted to add in there about the resource library?
I think just make sure that you use it really. There's so many things on Promethean Planet that can just enhance your lessons really, really easily. You don't have to reinvent the wheel because generally somebody on Planet's already done it for you. And just taking the time to download some of the packs and have a look at the different things that are in them, and they really do start to enhance your flip charts.
That's great. Thank you, Sarah. So that's us just about finished. I can see we're at about 40 minutes there. So as I say, we tend to be between half an hour and 45 minutes for a session. So thank you very much for everybody that took the time to attend today. So I'm just going to pass you back to Sam, and she's just going to quickly cover some next steps and just talk you through some of the support documents that I mentioned today.
Thanks, Janice. Sorry, I was typing a reply there, so apologies. I'm just going to get to where we were on this. So, as Janice mentioned, we do have several supporting documents, which includes all the contents that have been covered in today's session. The ActivInspire user guide, which can be found by searching for the article number on Promethean Planet, is always a great place to start. Sorry, PrometheanKB.com. Do be warned, though, that this particular user guide doesn't cover the features of ActivInspire 2.0. So that's the one that we mentioned earlier with ClassFlow. If you're not aware of PrometheanKB.com, this is, KB stands for Knowledge Base, so Promethean Knowledge Base website. And this is where we have lots of articles about troubleshooting, so things that can go wrong, and we may just be able to walk you through step by step. There are two useful user manuals that are found on Promethean Planet. They're under professional development, under videos, manuals, and more. And they also have useful information for skills development. So they're different from the knowledge base, which tends to be more exactly, this is where the pen is, this is where this particular icon is. The ones on Promethean Planet are about developing your skills and use within the classroom. Also remember that you can also access the help files that come within the ActivInspire software as well. So you can see there, Janice, if you just want to, can you just go to help for me, please? And if you want to go to, the what's new and the contents, then they're the help files that are actually embedded into your ActivInspire software. On the screen at the moment, you'll see both of our Twitter handles. So if any of you are Twitter users, Promethean UK and I, or TLC for UK and I, Janice and I will monitor both of those so we can always get back to you at any point. And this is where we'll post different updates, tell you what's going on in our world as well. So always useful if you do use Twitter. Finally, I did mention throughout that we do have a new all-in-one teaching tool called ClassFlow. It's currently free to use and to download. Not download because it's on the cloud, so free to use and access. If you haven't already registered, I do suggest you go and have a look. So it's classflow.com. As I mentioned, it's particularly useful for those of you that have one-to-one devices, so whether that is iPads or different types of tablets or laptops, as it allows you to have the push and pull interaction between yourself and the students. So in essence, you can send questions out to your students, including cards, which is the full page, so they can annotate on that particular page and then send it back to you. So another step up from what we've currently, most people are using, which is the learner response systems, so the ability to use the cards as well. If you've got any more questions on that, you can find YouTube videos on ClassFlow by just typing in ClassFlow, Promethean ClassFlow into YouTube, and you'll see lots of videos on there about how to use it and what it's all about. Just want to thank you all again for attending this session. We will be in touch shortly with the link. It does usually about 48 hours. You'll be sent the link to the recording as well as the YouTube address so that you can view this at any point. If you do have any final questions, do let us know. If not, thank you very much for staying with us, and we hope you found it useful.
Yes, thank you very much, everybody, for joining, and thank you very much, Sarah,